Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1647A, and today's date is August 24th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, Are the Good Guys Sending a Message to the Central Banks? Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, what we're seeing right now is a complete breakdown of the economic system. Now, remember, we've said this before, but the central banking system was not designed to go this long. They wanted an event so they could say, hey, listen, you need to sacrifice. You're not going to see food on the store shelves because we're in some type of an event, something like a war. This way they can point to something like that to say this is why the system is failing right now. This is why we're in a recession. This is why we don't see supplies coming in. The problem is we don't have that right now. And what is happening is we're going through this major transition. And it's not just an economic transition. It's a transition that involves government, the deep state, and everything else that we've known for a very long time. This is going to be the biggest transition that we've seen in our lifetime. And it's going to be huge. And what is happening right now is the economic system, it is breaking down very rapidly right now. Yes, Trump is putting out the numbers from government saying the economy's doing well. He's saying the economy's doing well. This is a strategy to show that, hey, the economy's doing well and the central bank is going to destroy it. He's used this strategy in all different aspects of his presidency. We saw it with North Korea. We saw it with we're seeing it with Iran. We're seeing it with Syria. We're seeing it with Afghanistan. We're seeing how he plays with the deep state. And we're going to be going into this into the next report about this mirroring and what is happening right now, because it involves everything. This is not just one little thing of putting the Clintons in jail and things like that. But when we look at the economic system right now, we look at all different indicators, and all the indicators, they're not looking good right now. And if we look at durable goods right now, we see that durable good orders in July, well, they dropped by 1.7%, the most since January. Core durable good orders, and if you exclude transportation, they also missed expectations, rising only 0.2% month-to-month versus economists' best guess of a 0.5% gain. When we look at the U.S. macroeconomic data, well, that disappoints and it doesn't look good. So we're looking at the U.S. Macro Surprise Index, and we're reaching the point of where we were right before the recession in 2008. This does not look good at all. Throw on top of that, we are seeing the yield curve, well, that is flattening and most likely will invert. Actually, the yield curve has tumbled now below Japan's for the first time in 11 years. This is not a good sign. So the yield curve was like this back in 2007. What happened in 2008? We went into a recession. We know that the Fed wants to change the calculation on how we calculate the yield curve, because they're saying it's not a good indicator of a recession. What they're really saying is this is an incredible indicator of a recession, and we don't want people to know what's going on here. We need to understand that everything that we're seeing, the tariffs with China, this is not a trade war. I know the corporate media is out there saying Trump's starting a trade war. We're getting into it with China. This is being done on purpose. And yes, China is in on this. Russia is in on this. All of the big players are in on this. It's a coordinated effort to bring down the central banking establishment. So when we look at this, this is all being done at the same time that they're going after the deep state. Russia and China, they know all about this. They know everything that's going on. They know exactly what's happening. And the strategy that is being used right now is the strategy of Sun Tzu, and it's also the strategy of mirroring, which we're going to be getting into in the next report. So everything that we're looking at right now is being done on purpose. The bilateral trade agreements, the tariffs, because what they're doing is they are forcing the old system out and they're bringing in the new system. And the only way to do this is to coordinate together, all at the same time, to break apart their globalist trading system. And that's exactly what's happening right now. This is why the mainstream media is out there. This is why the central bank, the IMF, they're all out there saying global growth is going to slow. This is not a good sign. This is not good for the economy. This is not good for their economy, the system that they set up. Now, what's very interesting is that in Russia, there was a fire in the central bank. Now, we know that Putin took over the central bank. Now, it's still a private Western central bank, but he controls it. He tells them what to do. But what's very interesting is that 10 months before this fire in Russia, the New York Fed building caught on fire. So, is this a message to the central banks, letting them know that, hey, you're done with your reign of terror is over? I mean, is this a coincidence that two central bank buildings with all their safeguards and everything that they have in there caught on fire? Does that make any sense? No, it really does not. So when we look at all of this and we put all the pieces together, we can see that the move is to force the central banking establishment to do what they do best in a roaring economy, to raise the interest rates, to kick off a recession. And there's a interest rate meeting coming up in September, and they're saying it's about a 90% chance that they'll raise the rates then. December, there's another interest rates meeting, and we know if they hit close to 3%, the whole system starts to come down. And we're getting very, very close to that area. Now remember, it's not just the economy. It's everything that we are experiencing right now. Because when everything comes out into the open, that we're in this illusionary economy, the central banks, they drove it into the ground. They did things behind closed doors because it's a private corporation. We don't know what they're doing. And we also bring in then the deep state. Well, the people around the world are going to be looking at this saying, what is going on here? Now, once this information comes out, do you think other countries, the people around the world, are going to have faith in the United States, in the Federal Reserve, in the central banking system? If they lose faith, what happens to the dollar? What happens to their system? It completely implodes. We're reaching a pivotal time in history, and it's getting closer and closer. And we're going to be discussing what this is all about in the next report, because both of these are combined. The economy with the central banks, because remember, the central banks, they created free money which funded the deep state system. And the central banks, they're behind a lot of this, and they like control. And offshoots from this came corruption, came the deep state, came everything else that you know of to keep the system alive, and then eventually go to war, and then eventually restart the system. This is exactly what they wanted. But they've run into a roadblock. They don't have the people in place to pull this off right now. They're kind of stuck. And this is why they're going to try to point the finger, but it looks like this might not work. It looks like the patriots and all those others around the world with Xi Jinping and Putin, they're working together. They're going to bring down the private Western central banking system. And this system will be restarted. We will be going through a transition. It will be difficult in the beginning, and we can see that we are headed in this direction. So if you haven't started to prepare, I would start preparing. If you have been preparing and you're thinking it's like no big deal, the economy's great, I would continue to prepare, because Normally what happens is when you think everything is fantastic, that's actually when it hits. You know the calm before the storm, when the skies look blue, everything looks great, but 100 miles off the coast, you don't realize the hurricane, the storm is coming, and people tell you there's no storm coming. Look what it looks like today. It's beautiful. There's no clouds in the sky. It's perfectly sunny. And you say to yourself, well, yeah, I guess there is no storm coming. It looks absolutely fantastic. I don't see a storm. I don't see any dark clouds. I see nothing. Then all of a sudden, the next day, the wind starts to pick up. You start to see clouds roll in. And you start to realize, well, wait a minute. What's going on here? Everyone was telling me that this was a beautiful sunny day. There was no storm coming. Why do I see clouds rolling in? Why is the wind picking up? The next day goes by. Now the storm is over you. It's raining. Winds really pick up. And you're thinking to yourself, ooh, maybe I should have prepared. Maybe I should have gotten ready for this storm. Maybe I shouldn't have listened to those people that told me that it was a sunny day today. So you go to the supermarket. You go to try to find supplies. Guess what? Everyone else realized what was going on. The shelves are now emptied because everybody's there. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen when the storm hits. And the storm is almost over us. And it's going to hit hard. Harder than anything that we've ever seen. Because this entire economy, this entire system, the mainstream media news, everything that we know of has been one gigantic lie illusion. And it's going to hit the people very, very hard. And it's going to be very difficult. And we're going to have to weather this storm. And once we get out of this storm, we will see sunny days again. So if you haven't started to prepare, I would prepare. If you are preparing, continue to prepare for this storm. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.